It's about understanding your market, really discovering what they want, not what you want. What's our market? Students living in the dorms on the south end of campus. Through our research and our in-depth interviews, we're able to get inside the heads of our participants to really figure out what they were interested in, whether it was sports, classes, or bonding with people from their floor. It didn't matter. We listened. We hand-selected those that we knew that lived on the south end of campus. And asked them a series of questions to get to know them and to really understand what was important to them. To really analyze the data, to find our common themes throughout each interview, and to really have an in-depth understanding of our market. After this, we began to put the pieces together to develop some real results. One of our first concepts that we talked about was walking. People enjoyed the pretty scene, but they hated it in the winter. The sidewalks were icy, and the salt didn't make it any better.
Icy sidewalks in the winter. I mean, they put a lot of salt down and it ruins your shoes, but there's still ice like everywhere.
Others said that walking really wasn't a big deal. The 10 to 15 minute walk wasn't really an issue for them, except if the weather was different. Others touched on how we have such a small campus and how it's easy to get around, while some talked about walking alone or walking with groups of people to and from class, or to the library, to the UC, or even to the SAC. One student even said she enjoys the walk because it lets her cool down from an exam.
And having that time to just kind of think to myself.
Okay.
Kind of cool down from like the exam or something like that.
Okay.
Many students even touched on if they were running late, they'd even cut through buildings just to shorten their walk. But really, what it came down to was organizing your time according to your walk. Our second key concept was life in the dorms. Whether it was meeting new people, or always having a motivator, or even just the convenience factor. Living in the dorms was definitely a good choice for most.
In the dorms, it's pretty active because there's always people around you.
A lot of them talked about their cars being far away, being parked behind the baseball lot, but they had things like safe rides, or friends, or even a bike to ride. Some talked about how expensive the parking passes are, while others talked about how good the cafeteria food was. Either way, living in the dorms as a freshman is the best option, is the most convenient option. We had a theme of using your car in general. You could either borrow your roommates if you didn't have one, or you'd have to make that walk all the way over to the baseball lot. Or you could call a safe ride. But you only used it when you ran errands. And again, some talked about how expensive the parking pass was and how awful parking is alone on campus.
We have to leave a half hour early because everybody's, like the parking spaces over there, they get filled up fast. It's kind of like a war zone. Everybody's just sniping parking spots. And it's just crazy over there, I guess.
Another theme we had was convenience, and this was more apparent than any other theme that we had during our interviews. Whether it was the dorms with the food and the friends and the laundry all being readily available, or being close to the SAC, or being close with your RAs, or just being all in one place. Some even said scholarships alone are what made it convenient. On top of the location of classes and choosing where to live next year. But don't worry, we'll get to this later. All you need to remember right now is that when things are convenient, they're easy. Another common theme were issues on campus. Again, people talked about the sidewalks being icy and salty, and even kind of overcrowded. People talked about crime, about not taking advantage of all that Central has to offer.
But I think that a lot of students don't take advantage of like the things that CMU has to offer as far as like helping you develop yourself for beyond college.
Another theme we came up with is just riding bikes. A lot of them only rode their bikes when it was nice out, and then their parents would take it home because they simply just didn't have enough room in their dorm to store it, or they didn't want to ruin it. A lot of them like riding bikes.
Yeah, I rode it a lot during the first like 2-3 months.
Okay.
But my bike's an older one. It was my grandma's. And, like, I love it personally. I'm like a vintage type person.
And most importantly, they liked how it saved them time. They just didn't like going through with all of the process of registering it before you come to campus. Our 7th theme is their concerns with campus wheels. Whether it was the location of their bikes, any fines or damages that may happen to the bikes, if it was going to cost them money, anything in general to make sure that there were going to be enough bikes came across their minds.
I mean, as long as it didn't cost the students more money, like as long as it didn't kick the room and board cost up, because you had to account for a bike for every student or every like a half of a bike for a student. And
although they had concerns, they did also provide suggestions for campus wheels, which is our next concept and our final concept. Whether it was helping out with promotional ways that included flyers, word of mouth, the RAs, or even at orientation, to possibly even making a profit, or even accommodating it with all the traffic on campus, or even adding baskets or saddles to the bikes. Another thing that they came up with was possibly renting it for longer than 24 hours, maybe implementing some type of punch card system.
I just don't like the 24-hour thing. I just feel like that'd be a hassle. Like, if you have a busy schedule, like on Tuesdays, my schedule, like, I'm always so busy. Like, I have class from 8 till 10, you know?
Let's think of a spider web in regards to how they relate. First and foremost, without a doubt, the core phenomenon, what really mattered most to those we interviewed was convenience. And this came up more frequently than not. From there, some things that cause convenience that we learned from our interviews were the dorm life.
Living right next to like all your best friends by the time like second semester rolls around, because you've all seen each other every single day.
Another is receiving scholarships, things like orientation and career services, getting involved with different RSOs. One participant even mentioned
To get baskets for it.
he even gave us the idea to.
Little saddles for it.
Many of our participants even said walking was convenient for them.
Yeah, we walk to Target.
Someone even shared that having a smaller campus made it convenient.
It's a small campus.
Similar to this, another girl put it this way.
Like, so you're kind of getting like the best of both worlds.
Even something as simple as cutting through a building made it convenient. And then some of the outcomes that our interviewers mentioned were safe rides. I know one girl mentioned that she uses this quite often, more times than not, especially when it's dark out.
So sometimes if it was like 8:15, 8:30 and it was like really dark out, I might call them.
Another outcome is when things are convenient, it saves time. One participant was even lucky enough to have a parking pass behind his dorm, specifically because he had a job.
Because I have a sophomore pass in my car, so I get to park behind Thor.
A few even mentioned the location of their bikes in general was a result of convenience. Some students even said getting to class on time was a result of convenience. One in particular also added this.
Yeah, I feel like being on time just shows more responsibility.
Other outcomes included parking meters, location of the buildings, not to mention hassle-free and cutting down on travel time are all results of convenience.
Just cut their travel time out of their day.
And then for the ways that our interviewers kind of dealt with and managed this whole convenience process, we're getting help and advice from their RAs that lived right on their floor.
If there's ever a problem, I guess our RAs are there to talk to us.
Some even had the opportunity to create their own schedule, and to decide where they were going to live next year.
But I'm living in West Campus because of the convenience of West Campus. It's really close to Grand.
Yep.
One participant even commented on adjusting to the flow of traffic on the sidewalks as a way of dealing with convenience.
In terms of like sidewalks to get through or something, they might have to change that or something.
A lot of them commented in saying they typically ride a bike to get around campus. That is, however, when the weather is nice.
Well, I had my bike up here when it was nice, which I loved. I love biking, but with the snow, people still ride their bikes, but I have no idea.
Some even mentioned driving, especially when you weren't looking for a parking spot on campus. When shown what the Campus Wheels program actually was, over half thought this would be a very convenient, useful thing for students.
It's a good thing all around. I don't see any real negative aspects when you're just looking at it.
It's a lot better and more efficient.
I personally think it's a great idea.
I think it's a really good idea. I think a lot of people use it.
I definitely think it's a good idea, especially for freshmen.
Gaining knowledge from their peers and hitching a ride with friends.
I have a couple friends that have cars if like I desperately need to get to Myers.
Most of the time though, a lot of them either just leave early for classes or they just really work on their time management skills. And finally, the thing that holds everything together, or the context as we would call it, life as a CMU student living in the dorms. We've done the important part. We've really analyzed the data to really get an in-depth understanding of those students living on the south end of campus. And we can finally say we understand our market. Yes, that's correct. We do believe that based on our understanding and our findings that there is in fact a market for this Campus Wheels program. We truly believe that students will take advantage of this program. And after all, it's free. And what broke college student doesn't love free stuff? Exactly. And now, Cassie doesn't even need to worry about being late for class anymore.